The webcast is now live. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you very much, Caris. Good afternoon and welcome to the Spelthorne Joint Committee meeting. I am Richard Walsh, your chairman for this meeting. I am particularly pleased to welcome so many members of the public who are contributing this afternoon. In line with government guidance, this meeting will not be held in public for social distancing reasons, but we are allowed to hold the meeting remotely, and this meeting is available for public viewing via the County Council's webcasting system. I would like to remind all participants that you have had rules around how this meeting will be run, and please abide by those. Please remember to turn off your camera and mute your microphone unless you are speaking.
Muted.
It will be more difficult to manage digitally than in person. I hope that internet connections hold up. In the case that my internet connection runs out, the Vice Chairman will take over until I can be reconnected. In the event that there is a problem with the web streaming, the meeting shall be adjourned until the technical issues have been resolved. In the event that the technical issues are not resolved, the meeting will be reconvened for a later date. Before we start, I will introduce the officers and members of the committee at this meeting. The officers: Caris Walker, Partnership Committee Officer; Joanna Long, Partnership Lead, who will step in to manage the meeting in the event that Caris has connection problems; Warina Zelli, Support Officer, handling the presentation; Jess Lee, who is enabling the webcasting. And we are also being joined by Spelthorne officers. For Pacific items, we have Jack Roberts for the on-street parking review, Nick Heaney for the highways update, and report for 308 School Road Junction. I will read out the members of the committee now, and when I introduce you, please do indicate that you are present and the area you represent so that we have confirmation of who is online for this meeting. So I'll start with Mr. Robert Evans. Right, obviously Robert is not with us. Mr. Tim Evans.
I'm here, Chairman. I think you maybe could be able to see me now.
Excellent, yes we can.
Lower Sunbury and Halliford.
Thank you, Tim.
County Councillor.
Yeah. Mr. Naz Islam.
I'm here, Chairman. I represent Ashford Division.
Thank you, Naz. Miss Alison Griffiths.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Alison Griffiths, Councillor for Sunbury and Ashford Common, County Councillor, and also Deputy Cabinet Member for Place at Surrey County Council.
Thank you, Alison. Mrs. Sinead Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. County Councillor Sinead Mooney for the Staines Division.
Thank you, Sinead. And Ms. Denise Turner-Stewart.
Thank you, Chairman. Denise Turner-Stewart. I'm County Councillor for Staines South and Ashford West, and I'm Cabinet Member for Communities.
Thank you, Denise. And for the Borough Council, we have Councillor John Baltflower, who is the Vice Chairman of this committee. John?
Thank you, Chairman. I am John Baltflower, the leader of Spelthorne Council and Ashford East Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Bateson.
Chris Bateson, Spelthorne Borough Councillor for Staines South Ward.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Sue Doran. No, it appears Sue is not with us. Councillor Tom Fiddler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Tom Fiddler, Borough Councillor, Halliford and Sunbury West.
Thank you, Tom. Councillor Maureen Attewell, who will now be replacing Councillor Gething until the end of the municipal year. Maureen.
Thank you, Chair. Borough Councillor Maureen Attewell, Deputy Leader Spelthorne Borough Council.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Jim McAvoy, I know, has given his apologies, so I will go no further there. And Councillor Joanne Sexton.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sexton, Ashford North, Stanwell South, Spelthorne Borough Council.
Thank you, Jo. Right. In terms of voting on items at this meeting, at the end of the discussion on each item, I will ask committee members if they are in support of the recommendations. I will assume members are in support of the recommendations unless you clearly and verbally indicate otherwise, and there will be plenty of time for you to do this. If a formal recorded vote is required, I will run through the membership list and ask you to respond individually. In the case of the parking item, each division will be discussed individually, and any objections to the recommendations should be made known then. In the event of an alternative recommendation, the alternative wording must be agreed upon so that it is recorded accurately for the minutes. I advise all members to use the raise your hand button at any point if you wish to speak. Please refrain from using the chat function unless you're having difficulties with your microphone. This will make it easier for me to be able to keep track of who is wishing to speak. For those members of the public who are joining us, you may leave the meeting as soon as your item is completed. If you wish to follow the remainder of the meeting, please use the link to the web stream as provided, which can also be found on the Joint Committee web page.
Mr. Chairman,
Right.
we already have a couple of hands up.
Right. Yes, we have Robert Evans. So you've hello, Robert Evans. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Because that's exactly what I'd like to do, Richard. I was on a previous meeting which went on for a minute or two, so I apologise. I must have missed it at the beginning. Robert Evans, County Councillor for Stanwell, Stanwell Moor, and a bit of Ashford. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and you're very welcome. Right, and do we have any other hands up that I can't see? No. Robert, can I ask you and everybody else, when you finish, yeah, that's it, down with the hands. Thank you very much. Right, we'll now start the meeting. It's item 1 on the agenda. Apologies for absence. Caris, can you please advise?
As you've already been made aware, Councillor McElroy is not able to join us this afternoon.
Right. I see. And we haven't received any apologies from Councillor Sue Doran, is that right?
No, I haven't had anything formally from her as yet.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much indeed. Then we move on to item 2, the minutes from the previous meeting. It's to approve the minutes of the previous meeting on, would you believe, the 16th of December 2019 as a correct and true record. Do you all agree?
Agreed.
Anybody wish to-
Agreed.
Good, fine. Thank you very much indeed. So we move on to item 3, declarations of interest. Caris, have you received any in writing?
I haven't received any declarations of interest, Chairman.
Right. We'll now move to item number 4, decision tracker, and this is for information. To review any outstanding decisions and actions from the Joint Committee. There is only one item outstanding, which hopefully you've all seen, which is fairly self-explanatory. The item in question is a meeting at the Stanwell Quarry. Obviously that was put off in November because of the shutdown. December is uncertain, particularly as none of us want to take any risks before Christmas. So it will either be, we hope, maybe towards the end of December, but more likely the early part of January, so that we don't have any possibility of missing anything. But that is the only item that's outstanding from the tracker. Only councillors can respond. So are there any councillors who have any comment? Otherwise, I will move on to the next item. All right. Andrew, you have your hand up, but this isn't really for yourself to comment on in connection with this now. If there's any problems that you have, please contact Caris or myself, or for that matter, your divisional member, who will sort out anything that you wish on that. Thank you. We now move to item 5, which is petitions. And we have the first petition, which is Clockhouse Lane Cycle Bridge. The petitioner is Simon J, and the divisional member is Naz Islam. Right. A petition with 2,517 signatures has been received relating to the section of Clockhouse Lane that crosses both the London to Staines railway line and the county boundary between Ashford and Bedfont Lakes. The petition has been signed by 798 residents of Surrey. The lead petitioner is Simon J, and the petition reads as follows. Bedfont Lakes Bridge needs improvements before fatalities, not after. Now, I would now like to welcome Simon J, who I know is on the with us, and I'd like Mr. J. Hello, can you reveal yourself?
Hi
Mr.
everyone.
J?
Yep.
Right, are you there? And this
indeed.
is the time when you can put your camera and microphone on,
Okay.
if you can. And I understand a photo of the area in question has been submitted and will be showing on the PowerPoint while he is speaking. Now, I'd like to invite you, Mr. J, to speak for 3 minutes on your petition. So over to you, Mr. J.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, my name's Simon J, and I'm an Ashford resident. My wife and I have 2 boys, aged 7 and 11. I'm a secondary school assistant head teacher in Elmbridge, Surrey, where one of my many roles is that I'm the designated safeguarding lead. I'm also a safeguarding governor of a fantastic primary school in Ashford, which is just a minute's walk away from this bridge. I have on record over 199 5K park runs at Bedfont Lakes. So believe me when I sit in front of you now, today, and say crossing this bridge as a pedestrian, on a bike or running is simply not safe, whether that's for an adult or for a child. It is certainly a red flag, high risk, dangerous, and for some, an impossible access route. I'm therefore here today to present this petition on behalf of my 2 boys, one of which is in the picture on your screens, and the thousands and thousands of other local young and old who access this beautiful Bedfont Lakes. After a nasty incident we experienced on this bridge, I started a petition questioning its accessibility and safety. In all honesty, I haven't pushed this campaign at all. I haven't involved the local press or put banners up or staged any access-related events. The petition itself virtually just took off. The local residents clearly very emotive and supportive of much-needed improvements to the bridge and the access to the park. Many comments from other adults, just under 1,000 local residents, as you've said, signed, many who are parents of local children. Some renaming the Bridge of Death. I'm not the first local to raise it, and some boldly have said I won't be the last. Personally, I'm not interested in where the responsibility sits or who's going to pay for the necessary work or what is stopping the improvements or why it hasn't happened as yet. I'm hoping that people within this virtual meeting accept this responsibility and with it the accountability and are ready to stand up and put safety first and do what is right and necessary. In conclusion, what I know is we have a wonderful park in Spelthorne with stunning bedfront lakes, an access bridge in Ashford in need of improvements for its local residents and its many visitors. Be that on buggies, bikes, pedestrians, runners, or my 7-year-old boy Matthew on his bike on the screens in front of you. I end with a question posed to me by my 7-year-old just 2 Saturdays ago when the picture on your screen was taken. Dad, it didn't take them that long to build all those really big houses in Ashford. So why is it taking them so long to make a little pavement for all the people? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Jay. That was excellent, and really appreciate you coming forward and speaking and also telling us about the problem that you have, which is highlighted by the petition. The petition has been answered, but my next thing I would like to do is to ask your divisional county councillor, Mr. Naz Islam, to speak in connection with this petition. Naz, would you care to come forward and speak, please?
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I would like to start by thanking Simon for bringing this petition to the Joint Committee once again. I absolutely echo everything Simon have said. Simon, you're absolutely right. You are not the first person to bring this to the Joint Committee. But I would like to be positive and hope you will be the last. Chairman, I believe first time a petition came to local committee was in 1990. That's 30 years Ashford residents being ignored and their existence being denied. Reading through the history, I have noticed many attempts have been made by the local committee in the past, but not been able to conclude a solution due to our Surrey highway officers not putting much weight and importance to this project. Officers are not convinced as there were not many deaths in this location. In 1992, a soil investigation was carried out to incorporate construction details. Chairman, in 1999, a budget estimate were prepared, pricing as follows: bridge structure and foundation 120k, cycleway and footway construction 210k, railway truck fees 30k, design and supervision was 45k, totaling 405,000k. Chairman, should our officers give this scheme importance and prioritize, this project in 1999 would have completed in less than $500,000. As you can see on the report today, the costing has gone up, estimating 2 to 4 million. Waiting any longer, cost will only go up, Chairman. Chairman, Simon is absolutely right to say this bridge is locally known as Bridge of Death. This name came after fatal incident took place in January 10th, 2001. It was a Monday evening just before 8 p.m. Car smashed through a fence and hit a tree before plunging into a deep 20-foot ditch. Driver of the car was killed on the spot and 3 passengers were taken to hospital in critical condition. Bridge itself is extremely narrow. It's dangerous for pedestrians, cyclists, and of course for the drivers too. Chairman, there have been many deaths and countless casualties Ashford residents casualties in this location. Ashford residents wants to know how many more people needs to die in this location before our officers and elected representatives will consider prioritize and location for improvement. Chairman, I would like to give a huge thanks to our borough leader, Councillor Butler, for verbally agreeing with me to contribute 2 million of the seal money towards this project. I asked Nick Haley to submit a seal application with the leaders' agreement. I'd like to know why this has not been done yet by Nick. Chairman, I am optimistic. With your help, leaders' positive commitments, and of course, with the committee members, committee members' support, together we can bring smile back to Ashford residents. Finally, I would like you all to support this petition. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Naz. The only thing I just like to highlight is that it is down to the elected members' decision making and priorities and things, and so it would appear that in the past the councillors before us decided that they didn't feel that it didn't have the priority that possibly it should have done. And so I would now like to move on and open up questions for councillors to speak. And the first councillor that has asked to speak is Joanne Sexton. Jo, would you? It's over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I was elected in 2011 and I was on the Surrey County Council Committee at that time in 2012, and this was raised then. This has been going on for a long time. Nobody objected in terms of the work that needed to be undertaken, but unfortunately my understanding is, and I'd like some clarity on this, is that actually there is a cost that needs to be dealt with in conjunction with Hounslow Borough Council, I believe. I know Mr Evans, Robert Evans and Tim Evans were at the committee at the time, and they might have a better recollection than I, but if somebody could update us, I'd be most grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Yes, I think that what I will do is to take some of the other questions first from councillors, and then I hope that Nick Healy is with us. Nick, can you confirm that you're on the meeting?
Good evening, Richard. Yes, I'm here. I'm taking notes.
Good. And then if you could then respond back, Nick, on those questions which are relevant to yourself, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Yeah. So I'd like to go on and ask Denise Turner-Stewart, if you care to speak next.
Thank you, Chairman. There's a long convoluted history in relation to this situation, and the petitioner is absolutely right to be raising it yet again, especially given, as you say, the amount of time that's gone past since the original presentation was made. Councillor Carol Coleman fought long and hard to have a solution at this location, and it was, as you confirm, on our list of actions as a local committee. Funding was an issue, and obviously the sort of compliance and the agreement of Hounslow Council. But it feels, on the basis of the response, that there is a solution potentially. Certainly with Councillor Islam's verification that the leader of the council, John Bortflower, has offered £2 million in SIL money. I mean, it sounds as if it is deliverable. I would also ask if you could also explore, or if there could be exploration around having this bridge as still potentially a two-way, but with traffic signals, as many of these sort of humpback type bridges have in sort of railway crossing locations, where drivers are very able to wait and, you know, sort of respect the traffic signals before they cross the bridge, and you could still have one of the lanes safely made for pedestrians. So committing just to a one-way feasibility, I think, is a bit narrow, because obviously with that very generous offer of £2 million, that gives potentially a number of solutions, and we would be obviously happy to seek some additional funding from Hounslow Council. I know they had funding available previously, so you could actually come up with a really good solution to this. It sounds like a perfect opportunity. I would give credit to the petitioner, and certainly to your son for for your candid account of how this bridge is experienced by Ashford residents. I used to work in Ascot Road as a sort of teenager, and even at that time, even cars would nearly hit each other crossing that bridge, just because the lanes are so narrow. So, and I've also experienced a motorcycle accident, which was quite severe many years ago. It is a very dangerous bridge. I just think that just to narrow it down to a one-way solution without looking at other alternatives, given the funding that's available, would be foolish. So, but I wholeheartedly support the petitioner. But thank you.
Thank you, Denise. And obviously Nick will be picking up your points and responding. It's now Alison Griffiths. Would you care to speak?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the a wonderful petition being presented to the committee. And very quickly, this will be a question for Nick Healy. I was just wondering whether there was anything we could do with this for active travel. Obviously, Surrey County Council at the moment are promoting walking and cycling. So I was just wondering whether this would fit into one of them schemes. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you, Alison. John, sorry, you slipped down the line, so you're next. John,
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, Mr. J and all the signatures of the petition, thank you very much. I know the bridge well. It is a dangerous bridge. I think there needs to be looked at more alternatives to be studied and come back with actual costings. I should be writing to the leader of Hounslow Borough Council, saying the same thing, that they must be part of this and they must contribute to this bridge. And really, let's get these costings, to get these alternative studies done for it to come back to the joint committee as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, John. It's now Councillor Tom Fiddler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to comment on the actual application. I think it sounds fantastic, and of course it will have my support. My only concern and my only question is in relation to the use of SIL. Having been exploring the process and trying to understand its possibilities for access for this, have we got confirmation that this is definitely something that would fulfil what was be needed for SIL? Because I would hate for us to say that we would definitely support it on the basis of SIL approval if SIL is then not applicable in this example. As long as we can get that safeguarded, I don't think there's a problem, but I just want to make sure that we are confident in the process of SIL being applicable for this application, or if we need to be exploring other alternative funds as well. Thank you.
I will, at this moment, ask if our Vice Chairman, John Bortflower, who, of course, as leader of the Borough Council, is the chairman of that particular task group, if he wishes to make any comment.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Fiddler, for that absolutely right question. I think one that, there's a figure been mentioned, which obviously about the correct study and costings, we'd never know what's happening. I think the direction is to support this, which I'm fully for, and I'm glad you are. And I think we've also got other priorities for SIL money, which will come more to a head shortly, Councillor Fiddler, but probably not today. We're looking at, and there was an email sent out before the meeting about the committee, and we'll continue in that and come back to you outside of the meeting of the position of that committee, if that's okay.
Thank you very much indeed, John. So the last person to speak I have on my list is Chris Bateson. Chris.
Thank you, Chairman. This bridge is extremely dangerous, and the amount of traffic, particularly at peak times, is pretty extensive. Residents in Ashford, certainly, and other parts of the borough, I think have been expecting something to happen over the years, and we've looked at a number of options and costings. I think Mr. J is to be commended for his presentation and the work that's gone into it, and he feels passionately about it, as I think pretty well everybody does here this afternoon. I certainly think that do nothing is not an option anymore, and we really need to get behind the best possible option to ensure that we get an improvement here for our residents. It is unsafe and we do need to act. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Right, that's all the speakers I have, and so I'll ask Nick Healy to come back. The answer for the petition, as you can see from your papers, is there. And so, Nick, it's really picking up any points that aren't covered by the answer, which have particularly come up from the speakers at this meeting. Over to you then, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. It's interesting that Naz has added some of the history previous to what I knew. I joined the council in 2012. Prior to 2003, the highway was administered on Surrey County Council's behalf by Spelthorne Borough Council. So that history back from the 1990s, I suspect, would have had Spelthorne Borough Council's involvement as well, although I wasn't there at the time, so I couldn't confirm that. It has been going on a long time. I've been in conversation with one of the local stakeholders just on the north side of the bridge, and they can remember when there used to be an at-grade crossing at the bridge as well, where people could basically cross over the tracks. And so that would have been the route for pedestrians when the bridge was built without any footway. And that's the key thing here. The bridge has no pedestrian or cycle facilities at all. It is just a carriageway for 300 metres. And 300 metres is a very long time to walk in the road among all that busy traffic, with the gradient as well, going up to the top of the bridge and then down the other side. It's very uncomfortable for cyclists who would feel under pressure to allow cars to go past them. But of course, a car going past them on the approach to a humpback bridge is not good news because of limited forward visibility. So understandably, the residents have given the bridge a nickname. Ironically, the casualty history for the bridge is not as bad as other sites nearby. So Church Street in Ashford has a worse casualty history than the bridge does, for example. My explanation for that is likely to be because people are simply avoiding crossing over Clockhouse Lane Bridge, either on foot or on cycle, because it is a barrier to movement by active travel modes. The cost does increase as time goes on, and I've alluded to that in the petition response, even since the Mouchel report was completed a few years ago. People have touched on the funding and the contribution from Hounslow. Back in 2012-ish, when the Mouchel report was concluded, the understanding at the time was that any funding would be split 50-50 between the Surrey side, which includes Spelthorne and Surrey County Councils, and also the London Borough of Hounslow on the north side. But so far, there hasn't ever been a time when the funding on both sides of the bridge has aligned to provide a funding package that would be enough to build a bridge. Now, I have it informally from Hounslow officers at a relatively senior level that they don't anticipate having funding on their side in the foreseeable future. That's not to say that they don't consider this to be a need, and indeed they actually included the Clockhouse Lane Bridge in a bid for TfL funding a few years back, but they were not successful, and so they weren't able to take forward a project there. They could have potentially funded it unilaterally with the money that was available at the time, but they just were unsuccessful in the bid. So it is on their radar, but their funding picture at the moment is such that they don't anticipate it being a priority. That's from an officer. If John is prepared to write to the leader at the London Borough of Hounslow, then that might prompt a slightly different response by going in at the top, as it were. So that's why we haven't built a bridge so far. In terms of funding, the funding for major projects at the moment tends to come from central government, either on a specific initiative or on the or from the local enterprise partnerships. Now, the local enterprise partnerships tend, at the moment, their criteria are based around housing development and economic development, and on the back of one or the other of those, you can potentially bid for funding, but the funding has to deliver a scheme that facilitates the housing or the economic development. And unfortunately, although everybody recognises the need, in this particular case, it doesn't meet that criteria for the local enterprise partnership. So that's not likely to be a funding source as long as those criteria exist. There isn't at the moment a government initiative that would pay that amount of money. I think, Joanne, you mentioned active travel. Perhaps it was Alison. Can't remember exactly who it was. It was Alison. So The active travel programme, we have started a conversation with Hounslow and with a couple of other local stakeholders about a scheme in the context of the active travel programme. However, there's a land issue which would need to be resolved before any scheme was implemented, either traffic lights or a one-way system. They're the only two things that we could afford under the active travel programme. But because of the land issue and the number of stakeholders involved and the internal processes of those stakeholders, it's just going to take too long to do all the discussion, the negotiation and getting an agreement within the timescales of the active travel programme. So it leaves the only route to delivering a scheme is with the joint committee as things currently stand. And the only source of significant funding available as things currently stand is the SIL funding, which has already been talked about. In terms of, Denise, you asked about two-way traffic signals. Now, the original Michel report actually included an option for two-way traffic signals. We couldn't safely provide two-way traffic signals for the full 300-metre distance between the ends of the footways on the Hounslow side and the Surrey side. 300 metres is just too long. And given how busy the road is, any significant length of two-way traffic signals would cause congestion all the way back through Ashford and in the opposite direction all the way to the A30 and beyond. So a two-way traffic signal option could be possible if we could undertake some fairly significant civil engineering to the approach embankments to get the footway or a shared footway cycleway closer to the bridge itself, so that we could then have two-way signals just over the bridge rather than the bridge plus the approach embankments. So there are options around that. But a straightforward two-way traffic signals isn't feasible simply for safety reasons. It wouldn't be much fun if there was a power cut and the signals went off. So we can explore that. Certainly we can explore that. The one-way system solution would, if it was northbound, would put all the congestion into Hounslow, because people getting out of Ashford could get out of Ashford quite easily, but people coming back into Ashford would then only be able to come into Ashford from the Bulldog Junction or from Felton Road. So that has implications, but most of the implications would be people on their return journey into Ashford. So yeah, it's not an easy one. It would be great to be able to do something here. I will continue to work with Spelthorne Borough Council at an official level to explore the opportunity for SIL funding, and I would be very grateful to know the outcome of John's letter to the leader of Hounslow to see if he can prompt any more willingness on their side in the foreseeable future. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Right, thank you, Nick. I'm getting a double. My voice is repeating every time I say something. That's better. Thank you. Okay. We've been asked to possibly make a decision, which is up on your screens, to decide on a feasibility study for a one-way system based solution in Clockhouse Lane. What I want to do is initially ask Nick, having said what he has said about a one-way system, because I've travelled that road for the best part of 40 years, going to and from Heathrow, which is where I worked most of the time. Might I further add that back in 1986, as a Spelthorne Borough Councillor, I went with Councillor Drinkwater to go and talk to Hounslow about reducing the speed limit. So I'm very aware, and I can go right back to the early 80s about this bridge and what's happened here. Nick, is a point in having a feasibility study on a one-way system, which based on the traffic and everything else, you seem to be saying really just wouldn't have a hope of ever getting off the ground, because feasibility studies cost money, and I assume that someone would have to pay for the feasibility study, and there's no point in doing it if in fact there is little or no chance of getting a one-way system based on what you've just said. Can you advise? Nick, you're muted.
I was indeed, much to the relief of the committee members, I'm sure. So this is an interesting challenge for actually local communities all across the country at the moment, and it's been brought into sharp relief by the Active Travel Programme. A one-way system from a technical point of view would fit. It would provide the facility that is required, and it would be deliverable for a relatively low cost, assuming that we can work out the land issues on the other side. A traffic light based solution, if we could bring the distance that it covered closer together, so that perhaps 100 metres rather than 300 metres, or even less, the smaller the section the better, then again I can see a traffic light based solution being feasible. Either of those though are going to cause congestion. Now, under the first round of the Active Travel Programme, the Department for Transport asked us to consider radical solutions to provide for active travel. And I think they still bear the scars in Lower Sunbury, because ultimately there isn't enough space in many parts of the network to provide really good facilities for pedestrians and cyclists, while at the same time maintaining capacity for vehicles. We only have space for one or the other. And the first round of the Active Travel Programme specifically asked us to take space away from cars and provide that space, repurpose that space for active travel modes. But communities across the country and in Surrey reacted very, very strongly to that. And so there's an indication that actually communities are not ready from a cultural point of view to embrace sustainable transport if it has a negative implication for their car journeys. And so if we could deliver a one-way system, we could potentially deliver a traffic light based system, but we would have to accept the consequences for congestion. A bridge based solution, if it could be afforded, then that wouldn't have any consequences for congestion, but the funding, the likelihood of funding, so far, we haven't been able to coordinate funding, and the likelihood of funding going forward on both sides of the bridge at the same time looks quite slender as things currently stand. I hope that will change, and if it looks like the funding picture improves, then obviously we can go full steam ahead for a bridge-based solution. But without that, we need to trade off the benefit for pedestrians and cyclists over against the congestion penalty that we would pay.
Right. And a feasibility study is your usual £3,000 to £4,000.
In this case, it would cost a bit more. We'd have to do some traffic modelling, and that's relatively expensive, because I would want to inform committee with some evidence and some intelligence as to what the implications of different options were. The other thing, if I'm hearing from members around the room that if a one-way system-based solution is too narrow and we need to explore alternative solutions which might involve some significant civil engineering, then again that increases the value of the feasibility study, and I'd have to come back to you on that, Chairman.
Right. What I want to do, I note, Robert Evans, you've asked to speak, but just one moment. What I'm getting is that an awful lot of this hinges on potential SIL money, so that we can go for the better option, which is the bridge option. So I think that is a course we can take, is to see when the SIL task group has met and what the reaction is, and that would take it round possibly to the next committee in March. or we go down the path of a feasibility study on a one-way system or some other feasibility study. Otherwise, that I think are the two options that I kind of get the hearing from. Yeah. But I welcome any comment from councillors. I've got Robert Evans and then Tim Evans. So, Robert, would you care to say what you wish to?
Yeah, it's just an observation which may be very obvious, but I'm sure Nick and anybody else will take into consideration that the traffic flows at the moment along that are the traffic to the airport is a fraction of what it would have been in normal times. And I wouldn't want a survey to go ahead now and come back with an answer. So there's not much traffic using that bridge when we know that Heathrow is functioning on a sort of 20% of its original or normal, if anything's normal in.
I would agree, and also add to that if the third runway project eventually goes ahead, then traffic in the area could increase.
I understand Heathrow have laid off all the people on the third runway project anyway. They've all been given time.
Yeah.
Yep, good point. Thank you. Tim Evans.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just to confirm what Nick has said as far as Sunbury is concerned, he mentioned that in passing. Yes, he and I decided unilaterally that we would cancel the active travel project more or less straight away because of the negative reactions that came up. That's what we did there. But more relevantly to this, I think everyone's obviously in agreement this is a good idea to do something. It's very difficult to know what. It seems to me the recommendation is a bit limited because it's just asking to look at one particular system. And I think you, Chairman, have suggested that what we need is to find out whether the SIL funding is actually available or not, or could be used in this particular manner. And without trying to defer anything at all, I wonder if we need to find that out first. But we need a broader recommendation because I think the Joint Committee is definitely minded to have a feasibility study as to what we can do if the money were available. And I don't think it should be limited to a one-way system. That doesn't sound terribly plausible anyway. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tim. I've got a Spelthorne officer, Lee O'Neill, who wishes to say something, which is great. Before you do, Lee, Naz, did you want to speak at the end as well, or your hand has gone down again? Okay, I'll come back to you, Lee. So sorry, Lee, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Chairman. Sorry, just to briefly talk about SIL. Obviously, just probably worth putting a bit of context to this. Just so as a starting point, the current pot we've got is about £5.75 million. Obviously, we'll be getting more in as there are more developments. Of that, about up to 15% can be on local spend, so that would take the pot down to about on my calculation, about 4.9 million. So obviously, this will be a huge chunk out of a pot that has to be used for a wide range of schemes, and that includes roads, and other transport infrastructure, flood defences, schools, educational facilities, medical facilities, sporting, recreational facilities, and they can be used for open spaces as well. And in terms of what SIL is generally used for, I'm not an expert on SIL, but obviously the idea of SIL is it's basically there for must be spent really on infrastructure, which is required to support new development and growth in the borough. So shouldn't really be used, in my understanding, to fund solutions to existing problems unless they're made worse as a result of a new development. So I'm not saying it's a no, because obviously it's an answer that it's a question for the task group, and the task group to then make a recommendation to committee. But obviously they would obviously be needing to take those things into consideration when making a decision. So just thought I'd just raise those issues just so obviously members of the committee can understand the current position.
Fine. Thank you very much, Lee, for giving us that information. It seems that what you described, Lee, is something that obviously the SIL task group can be looking into. And I have a feeling that my leaning is towards that we hold everything on this, having received the petition, that we take it to the SIL task group and then move on from there and not do any further feasibility studies unless we really feel that they would be good value for money and have some chance of success. Now, that's kind of where we are at the moment. I've got Councillor Sinead Mooney and also Councillor John Bortfly, who both indicated to speak. So, Sinead, would you like to go next, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Just really in response to the point made by Lee O'Neill with regards to SIL, I think it's really important that members of this committee are cited of a policy from the Borough Council with regards to what SIL can be spent on, what it can't be spent on. I'm told such a policy isn't available at present. I think it's really important that it is written down so that as committee members we can make an informed decision. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you, Sinead. And John Bortfly, as the chairman of that task group, you did indicate to speak. But
yes, I did, Chairman. Thank you so much.
Would you care to say something?
Yes, please, Richard. Thank you so
yes,
much.
Please.
Really, I think, the one-way system, I think we've all sort of covered off, doesn't sound the best idea. I think there are potential other ideas which need to be drawn out a little bit, not to the nth degree, but to decide where to go. What we've not reached is a direction, rather than saying we'll put it to a SIL committee. Now, I do believe we need to have a direction, be it traffic lights either side of the bridge. And I think if you take I think, Nick Healy brought up about the traffic, and Robert Evans quite right, it's not as it is now. But then you're talking about safety and people's lives. And I think that nothing's happened for a long, long time. And I think we have to focus on safety first, rather than traffic at the end of the day. So I'd like to see some more ideas come through of what's been discussed today, just sort of minuted, noted, and then we can take that slightly forward. But I think at the moment, we're just knocking ideas out rather than putting ideas into the frame that can be looked at and can be quickly costed. The only thing that's costed at the moment seems to be the bridge. Thank you, Jim.
Fine. Yeah. Okay, John. So, okay, Joanne Sexton, you've asked to speak, Joanne?
Just very quickly, if I may, Chair. I think it was a very good point that Sinead made earlier in regards to understanding where the SIL money can be spent, because there are a lot of areas within our borough that we would like to spend the SIL money on, and I certainly know Studholme Doctor's Surgery have been after some SIL money for many years, which they haven't been able to get their hands onto. So whilst I'm in favour of this application in terms of making it much more safer for everybody, I agree, because I used to run across that road and I used to find it very scary when I used to get to that point. But the problem is now is we need to understand how much money we've got, which Lee's just spoken about, and really we need to prioritise it. But I am in favour to go forward and to work with Hounslow to see if we can get this moving in the right direction. Thank you, Chair.
Fine, thank you. I think we're getting to a stage where what we want to do is to put this on the tracker for the joint committee, so that, and then between now and the next meeting in March, is to have various feedbacks from the SIL task group, from Nick Healy and his highways people, looking at various other different things, and see therefore then maybe to make a decision in March as to whether or not we want to have a feasibility study and go down one or two particular routes. Also, of course, contact with Hounslow and the Vice Chairman, John Bortfly's letter as the leader of the council to Hounslow is going to play another important part, because if we can get their agreement on board, then half the battle's won. So if all the councillors or the committee members are in agreement, I would like to put this on the tracker, feed in all the information that we can and contributions from everybody, and then we can then see at the March meeting if there's a particular direction we want to go forward. That is my proposal as chairman to you all. Denise Turner-Stewart, you wanted to speak. Denise.
Chairman, could it be stated that the this proposal has the support of the full committee, because I think that should carry some weight because of the amount of time it's taken to get to this point, and the fact that we're asking questions that we've asked previously to show our intent and commitment to this, and try and sort of move it forward, not sort of 6 months, 12 months at a time, actually get this sort of actually actively delivered, hopefully in a reasonable time frame. Thank you.
Right, well then, based on what you've just asked, Denise, do we have, or do I have the support of the whole of the committee behind this 100%?
If I may, sorry, it's Caris here. If it sounds like you're making an alternative recommendation, so we do need the appropriate wording for that. Would you like me? I've got a suggested wording here, if that might help, and I'm happy for you to add to it if that would be appropriate. So the Joint Committee is asked to receive a report on on appropriate funding streams and technical options at a future meeting of the Joint Committee. Would that reflect what you're suggesting, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, it certainly would from my point of view.
Can I ask a question of clarification?
I see Tom Fiddler has asked to speak. Tom, did you want to speak? You put your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm also conscious that there was a point of clarity sought by Nick Healy. So, did you want to deal with that first, and then I can follow up with some addendums to the wording?
Yes, by all means. Nick, do you want to come in?
Yes. Just to make sure I'm absolutely clear as to what committee would like by way of information between now and March. And the reason I ask that is because if committee would like essentially a one-page list of possible options with very broad price ranges, then that would be feasible. And we can certainly hear back from the SIL task group within that timescale. Perhaps, I guess that's an issue for Spelthorne Borough Council. If committee would like any more detail than that, then we're already in into feasibility work. Now, unless committee was to defer a scheme that it is already working on this financial year, the earliest that new feasibility work could start would be next financial year. That would be starting from April 2021. So this committee has in the past moved its feasibility programme around, and most recently we moved it around to accommodate the Staines High Street rising bollard. So that is possible, but I just need to inform committee that if you wish to start feasibility work before March, then you need to think about which schemes you'd like to defer to make room for that in terms of both budget and capacity. Robert Evans made it a point that any traffic survey work would need to wait until we get into a new normal after lockdown in any case. So any traffic survey evidence probably couldn't really be gathered until, well, who knows how long this is going to last, but some stage towards the end of next year when things start to get back to normal. And so that does limit the timescales as well.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Tom Fiddler, you wanted to?
Yes, I just wanted to kind of support what Councillor Turner-Stewart had kind of raised. I think, though, that what we are supporting is that active travel measures should be implemented, or improved pedestrian and cycle access should be provided on this bridge, though the means for delivering this needs to be subject to further investigation of funding. I think what was trying to get across is the idea that we are supportive of the need to improve the pedestrian and cycling access across this bridge, and I think that would also hopefully satisfy what the petition proposers were seeking as well, which is a move in the right direction. And I'm just slightly nervous that if the wording we went ahead as it was originally, it didn't suggest that we were moving positively in support of some sort of resolution here. So I just wanted to ask if we could add that into the wording, that there is support for further improvement there is support from this committee for access to pedestrian and cycling access on this bridge.
Well, I hope that we would get a fairly unanimous support on that one. Caris, hopefully you're taking a note of that and maybe adding it further to it.
Yes, we do need to decide on the actual wording so that I know what the recommendation, if somebody wants to put an alternative recommendation in, that needs to be worded, and the wording needs to be decided now so that can be formally noted.
Okay then. And what about the one page from Nick Healy just giving the various different solutions with a certain costing on them? I think that might also be useful as well. So the feeling from the committee is if we can come up with a wording solution, would that meet the approval of most, if not all, the members of the committee? I think it's just a matter of putting your microphone on and saying agreed or not, as the case may be.
We do need the wording before they can agree it, Richard.
Okay, I'm just getting a feel beforehand before we go for all the wording. Okay, now I've got some more speakers here. Councillor Sinead Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the terminologies being worked on, but I think within it needs to be built this clarity around what SIL money can be spent on or not, given the fact that there's no written procedural guidance within the Borough Council on this issue. You know, if SIL money doesn't apply to this scheme, what is the next step? If we can be assured that it does apply, then I'm in full support of this, absolutely. But I think what SIL can be used for in this instance needs to be made absolutely clear.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you on that one. Yes, Tom Fiddler, did you want to come back, or have you spoken and you just haven't put your hand down?
Oh, I hadn't taken it down, but just in response, I'm in complete support of Councillor Mooney. I have been trying to follow up this as a line of inquiry for a number of weeks now to try and get solutions on this, and I am working constructively with members across the House to make sure that we are accountable in our SIL process and that it's delivering what it needs to. I'm not denying that. I just want to make sure that that's exactly reflected in what we're doing, and if we need to find alternatives, that we do so. But I do agree that we do need a lot of clarity over SIL.
John Portfly, you wanted to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I take Sinead Mooney, Councillor Mooney and Councillor Fiddler's point. I think we probably need to take this away and bring this back, Richard, once we've worked out what is appropriate. Obviously, it does need to be funded. And if it's not going to be from SIL, then we need to decide that early on so it can come back or go to the right direction. I hope that Joint Committee at the end of the day will solve the problem of this bridge and give safety and security to residents using it. But I think at this point, probably until them questions are answered, it'd be very hard push to put a motion in place to move this on. So maybe it's for the next agenda.
Yes, John, thank you. I really appreciate that. And together with Sinead Mooney and Tom Fiddler and all the other members, because I'm coming to the same conclusion that what we're going to do is accept this petition. The petitioner, Simon J. Simon, you heard very much the debate and the concern that all the councillors have that we make this bridge safer, and I fully, absolutely endorse that. But I would like to accept it. And what we've done in the past is we've accepted the petition, and then at the next joint committee meeting, we have provided answers and thoughts as to how we proceed forward. So over the next 3 months, that's exactly what we'll be doing. That doesn't mean that if an opportunity comes and we can take some action and get this going, that we won't take it. It's just a matter that we want to head down the right path. So I want to thank you for the petition. We've accepted it. There will be a further answer at the next meeting. And in the meantime, we will all be doing a lot of work in coming to the right way forward and hope to find the funding that's needed. Now, Caris, is that not possible? And if it isn't possible,
we can
tell
do
me how we get around it.
We can. Richard, Nick has very kindly shared some additional wording in the chat function, which If I can read that out for the benefit of people who are looking in, and see if this embraces what the thoughts are. So we've got a recommendation we can take forward on that. So the Joint Committee agrees to indicate its support for new pedestrian cycle facilities connecting Ashford to Bedford Lakes along the Clockhouse Lane corridor, noting that funding options need to be clarified, including SIL and any contributions from London Borough Hounslow, and also noting that further exploration is needed to identify potential options. If, Mr. Chairman, you're happy to put that forward as the alternative recommendation, and people are happy to agree that, we can move forward on that.
Fine. Thank you, Caris. Yes, I'm perfectly happy to do that. Do I have the agreement of the committee?
I agree.
Agreed.
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 Right. Thank you. Thank you. Can I just then suggest, does anybody not agree? Excellent. Thank you very much indeed on that one. Now, just to speak to yourself direct, Simon, I hope that it's useful for you to see what we're going to do and go ahead, and the resolution there. And I hope that you will join us at our next joint committee to hear more. And we will be in contact with you between then and now. Is that all right, Simon? If you could just say yes, and
yes, that's fine, Richard. I just want to say thank you to each of you for taking the time to listen. Sometimes the most difficult decisions, do take a lot of time, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, and obviously you'll be liaising directly with the National County Councillor Naz Islam on all matters about this, and he'll be able to feed further information into us. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, we will now move on to the second petition that we have, which is road safety changes, Long Lane, Stanwell. We have a petitioner, Samuel Philpott, who unfortunately is unable to join us this afternoon, and the divisional member is Rob Evans. Now, we then have the petition 2 is a petition with 2,901 signatories have been received relating to the junction of Long Lane and Bedfont Road, Stanwell. The petition has been signed by 222 residents of Surrey. The lead petitioner is Samuel Philpott. The petition reads, as follows: road safety changes, Long Lane, Stanwell. I just would like to add that this is the accident, which was absolutely tragic, where 3 young people lost their lives and a 4th member was seriously injured. And we very much tried to look at how, if there is anything that we can do to try and avoid this sort of accident happening again. As I say, unfortunately, Samuel is not with us, so I will invite Robert Evans to speak as the divisional member if he so wishes. Robert?
Thank you very much, Chair. And colleagues on Surrey County Council will know that I did speak on this at a council meeting in a member's statement. Richard, you've referred to one incident, of the tragedy on New Year's Eve, when a car with 4 British Airways workers, as we now know, was in collision with a lorry driven by somebody from Donata, and all the evidence so far is that the lorry, which was on Bedfont Road, was not in the wrong, and the car was. But that's not the issue, and it's not just one incident. There have been a number of people who have commented and contacted me about Long Lane and the fact that it's used as a cut through from the A30 up to Bedfont Road in Stanwell, and there it meets Bedfont Road, where for a variety of reasons there is the wrong sort of traffic for what is really a village road. You get overspill from the airport, and a lot of warehouses have been allowed. It's not just Donata, but others along there, and indeed I think it's on a bit of land owned by Hounslow. A further Donata 2 factory and building is being allowed, and there are other warehousing has been proposed in the Spelthorne plan, which I've opposed, as I have other councillors in the Stanwell area. At one stage, one part of Long Lane, there was a road narrow bollards which were removed not all that long ago. There are no speed curbs up the road, and it being a straight road, people do go at considerable speed from the A30 or from the roads that come in right up to Bedfont Road. So in discussion with residents, I know that many of them would like either road humps or some other form of speed curves or a speed limit along that road. I'm conscious that speed limits don't always get obeyed, but I would say that I think that the conclusion at the end of the or the recommendation is very limp, that we just note this is not adequate, and I think we ought to say that we'll either undertake a feasibility project or feasibility study, or look at some form of measures. So you've got a different, yeah, I mean, it says that you're sorry, in front of us now, it says that the note, well, I don't think noting is good. I know investigations are going on, but it's not just because of this one accident. There have been other accidents and traffic is speeding along there at all times. So I think we should be really considering something, and perhaps Nick Healy will give us some guidance as to what is reasonable, bearing in mind the budgetary restrictions that we have. But I think the residents of Long Lane and the other parts of Stanwell affected by this traffic would welcome some positive initiatives from this committee. Thank you, Chair. You're silent, Richard. It's probably good, but you are.
Thank you, Robert. I do apologise to everybody. Thank you for that. And now I kind of throw it open to the committee. But before I do, I know that Councillor Sue Doran arrived some time ago now. I hadn't had a chance to say hello to you, Susan, but you've arrived. And I did notice you put your hand up. And so possibly you want to speak on this item as well. So give you a chance to introduce yourself and also then speak on this item. Over to you.
Well, I'm sure everybody knows me. I must apologise. I had great difficulty getting in, but persevered and did in the end. I'm Sue Doran. I'm one of the Spelthorne councillors for Stanmore North. And this road, the Bedfont Road, is a particularly dire road to travel along. And when we're not under COVID regulations, I travel on that road virtually every day, twice a day. And it's a wonder more people haven't died. We need to really look at that road seriously. It doesn't matter who was at fault on the accident, but there have been other serious accidents where people have nearly died. So please, can we look at it? It's one of the main routes out of Stanwell, and also as well as being a cut through from the A30 through to the airport. And as Robert said, it could be something like speed limits, although people don't keep to them, I know. But and where the junction is with Long Lane, it's desperate. People just pull out, pull in, don't indicate. We need to do something, because that road goes from a narrow road to a wider road, back to a narrow road. And the massive juggernauts we have coming along there are unbelievable. And it is basically a country road. So I just want to support what Robert said. And can we as a committee, please consider this seriously? Thank you.
Fine. Thank you, Susan. Now, I haven't got anybody else to speak at the moment. So therefore, Nick, do you have any comments to make in particular regarding some of the points that Robert Evans raised?
Yes, of course, Chairman. One thing I cannot comment on, I'm afraid, is the use of the land to the south of Bedfont Road for logistics depots and the like. That would be a planning issue rather than a highways issue. So I'm afraid I can't comment on that. The only thing that I would add is that it's not unusual in Surrey to have a significant HGV traffic on relatively narrow roads. And that's simply because of the history of the development of the network. A lot of roads were country lanes and have become major routes. And if you were to go to the A244 that runs through Oxshott, for example, that is a really good example of a major cut through from the M25 to the A3. It takes a lot of HGV traffic through the centre, right through the centre of Oxshott village. So, yeah, it's not ideal. Nobody is pretending that it is, but it's not unusual. The only thing I would say, Chairman, is that later on in the highways update item, I'm recommending that committee actually start the feasibility work to replace the width restriction in Long Lane. Now, if committee were agreeable to commissioning that feasibility study, it could be extended to take a look at the junction with Bedfront Lane and to take a look at speed management measures along Long Lane. And so that it is within committee's gift to do that, and those schemes would be affordable for committee to be able to deliver by itself. And so committee does have the opportunity, Chairman, to address the points that Robert and Sue have made and the concerns expressed by the petitioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. John Bortfly, you wish to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Just really to, I think Nick beat me at it to say, could we do something on this? And I fully agree. It's a very dangerous location, and sadly, as we know from the fatalities. So really, Nick's answered my question of adding into things later on. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you very much, John. I haven't got anybody else to speak. Since we have a possible solution further down the items on this one, it's whether or not we kind of change the word note or leave it as it is, knowing that we're going to sort it out later on. But Robert Evans, have you got something to suggest, Robert?
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that we add afterwards the committee, so keeping that bit noting point there, but add the committee agrees to work with these agencies and look at possible ways to address the situation. Which is not very committing us to much, but it is actually saying we're going to do something. The committee agrees to work with these agencies, that's the ones mentioned above, obviously, and look at possible ways to address the situation.
Possible ways. Right. Caris, I hope you're just taking that down, are you?
Yes, I am indeed.
Oh, good. Excellent. Does that meet agreement with the all the other members of the committee? All I'd ask for, in fact, and I'll do it the other way around, is does anybody disagree? Fine. Thank you very much indeed. Then have you got that wording, Caris, all right?
Yes, just to confirm that on the end of what is in front of you, which is the recommendation that Nick put in there, and the committee agreed to work with agencies to look at and address. Could you give me the last few words of that, Robert, that you put in there?
Possible ways to address this situation.
This situation. I thought it was situation. I wasn't sure. Lovely. Yes, I have got that. If people are are happy with that.
Fine. Yes, I think we all are. Thank you. And Robert, I believe that you're in communication with Samuel Philpott, and to let him know about what we've agreed to do, and that how concerned and sad the whole committee is, and how we would very much like to ensure that we can do as much as possible that it doesn't happen ever again. Will you pass those words on to him?
I will do, Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for your support.
Fine. Thank you very much. Right, that finishes therefore petition 2. We now move on to petition 3, which is road safety improvements to Leyland Road between Commercial Road and Wheatsheaf Lane. We have the petitioner, Mr. Thomas Byrne, who I believe is with us, and also the divisional member is Councillor Sinead Mooney. Now, I would just like to come up. Yes, here we are. We have a petition with 145 signatures, has been received relating to Leyland Road Staines upon Thames. The lead petitioner is Mr. Thomas Byrne. The petition reads as follows: road safety improvements to Leyland Road, Commercial Road and Wheatsheaf Lane. Now, Thomas Byrne, you have 3 minutes to speak. Can you kind of come up and indicate that you're there?
Hello, Mr. Chairman, I'm here.
Right, if you put your camera, that's it. Right, great. Thomas, right. Well, Thomas, you have 3 minutes. It's over to you to speak on your petition.
Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for reviewing the petition that I submitted on behalf of the residents of Leyland Road and its surrounding neighbourhood. I'd like to thank the 145 signatories that we were able to garner in less than a month, and the petition was closed now, so it was 145 at the height of the pandemic, surely highlighting the strong feeling about this issue in the local community. I'd also like to thank the council for your detailed response, and I'd use my 3 minutes to address a couple of points that were raised in the review of the petition. Firstly, I'd just like to dispute the statement that said that there's residential parking that borders the majority of Leyland Road, and there is off-street parking available. There is a significant stretch of the road between Ruskin Road and Riverfield where Leyland Road narrows considerably. There is no off-street parking and it is blighted by parked cars. This stretch of road is home to a main junction with Commercial Road and also has 2 primary schools nearby. I thank you for the detailed response detailing the number of collisions which involved personal injury. And whilst I might question some of the descriptions that state the causes were attributable to carelessness or recklessness, I wonder if the real reason might actually have been the vehicles were travelling too fast for such a built-up area. I would also question where the data is that reports on the collisions which do not include personal injury, i.e. those into parked cars. None were reported in the response from the council. I've been witness to 2 such incidents myself in the last 6 months alone, one of which went through a front garden concrete wall. Thank you for the suggestion of a community speed watch, and would gladly take part in something like that in the near future. But as you confirm that Surrey Council have already decided that Leyland Road requires speed enforcement, I'd question if this was superfluous to requirements. With regards to the point that was raised that the distance of street lighting is enough to indicate the required speed limit, there are no standard speed limit signs on Leyland Road from Leyland Village up to South Street in Staines High Street. I'd like to question why no standard signs are allowed to be installed. However, it has been decided that the installation of vehicle activated signs would be worthwhile, of which all my petitions are strongly in support of. I appreciate the budgetary restrictions for installing a crossing point for the elderly. However, I would like the committee members to consider that if they are in a similar situation to the residents in the Daltons, where they are unable to cross Leyland Road safely due to the speed of the traffic and having to walk an extra 500 metres out of their way to find a safe place to cross. Finally, I would like to state my appreciation that the boundaries of maintenance works that's been proposed in Leyland Road are to be extended up to Carlisle Road. I would only question the statement which indicates Surrey County Council are only concerned with road defects over 400 millimetres of depth. A 40-ton HGV lorry travelling over a smaller defect can still cause considerable disruption to the local environment. Residents, including myself, have reported our houses shaking when such vehicles pass. In conclusion, I'd like to draw the attention of the committee to the fact that 2 independent bodies, both the Surrey County Council Road Safety Team and Surrey Police, have decided that vehicle speed on Leyland Road needs to be addressed. Surely this supports the supposition behind our original petition, that the traffic on Leyland Road needs to be better managed. The reported average speed of 30 miles an hour recorded by Surrey Police indicates that some cars are travelling well above the 30 mile an hour speed limit. Finally, I'd like to reiterate that there are 3 primary schools that are affected by the speed of the traffic on Leyland Road, plus all the residents that live on the tributary roads. And although residents will directly benefit of those who live on Leyland Road, many residents will also indirectly benefit from any improvements that take place. I'd like to take this time an opportunity to thank Sinead Mooney for her support with this petition, and also Caris Walker. And thank you all councillors for all your work that you are doing during this pandemic.
Thank you very much indeed, Thomas. Appreciate your thoughts and thanks to us. Robert, can you put your hand down? I'm assuming it's from the previous time. That's Robert Evans. Can you put your hand down? Thank you very much. Yeah, no, absolutely. Just make it. Right. Now, what I'm going to now do is ask your divisional member, Sinead Mooney, to speak. Thank you. Sinead, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I speak in support of this petition. As you would have heard from Mr Byrne, there has been a considerable amount of work which has gone into this in a very short time, mainly led by Mr Byrne and other residents. Let me tell you all, colleagues on this committee, that local feelings and passions about this stretch of the road are very, very high. Colleagues, you will have heard in very eloquent terms from Mr Byrne today, speaking support in his capacity as a lead petitioner, and he covered various issues such as lack of street parking, about the local feelings and the limitations and restrictions to the areas and the dangers that the speeding can pose. I don't wish to repeat the points made by Mr Byrne, but I would urge committee colleagues to support a request for this project to be added as an item for a feasibility study. To leave this as information only, given what we have heard and know, is simply, I would say, not good enough. There are significant issues with this site, and the accident data most definitely supports that. Mr Byrne touched on the Daltons, the sheltered scheme, where residents have to cross the Raisbury Road to access bus stops to get into town centres such as Egham and Staines High Street. This puts them at significant risk. You will have heard that there are also various schools in the local area, and whilst we encourage parents to walk their children to school, we also have a responsibility to ensure that the area and the roads are safe. I'd also remind my colleagues on the committee that this particular stretch of the road, as identified in the petition, has been identified by Highways as a location in need of a crossing, and you will see that in the written response. So again, I say, to just note this response in this paper simply is not good enough. I therefore request that although some steps are in place to address some of the issues identified, the main thrust of the report points to a crossing and that we need to give this our urgent attention. And therefore, Chairman, I would like to vote, if needed, to ensure that there is a feasibility study carried out on this area for a level crossing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sinead. Now, this is open to anybody who wishes to speak, and Denise Turner-Stewart. You'd please like to go ahead, Denise?
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to support my colleague, Councillor Mooney, and the petitioner. This has been an issue that has been going on for some time. I think the meandering nature of this stretch of road, with the particularly with the extended pedestrian areas on the end of Commercial Road as they hit Leyland Road, mean that there are quite a lot of hazards. There's lots of double parking. I think the petitioner was talking about the challenging, quite rightly so, that the report states that the properties that are on that road actually have off-street parking, but there are plenty that don't, and in some points the pavement is very narrow and you get a lot of parking, so it is extremely hazardous. You get a natural kind of acceleration as people leave Staines Town heading down towards Leyland. And Chairman, we've been in discussion as well, because obviously you're responsible for Leyland Village. Currently, we've got a consideration for a 20-mile-an-hour limit in Leyland Village. And I've had exactly the same comments from people leaving Leyland, heading towards Staines, and saying that they're not sure if it's a 40, if it's a 30-mile-an-hour limit. And because, as Nick has stated in the report, there are restrictions over where you can put those that signage, there is a kind of ignorance, really, as to how fast people can actually go. So I would certainly support vehicle activated signs, and with her local knowledge, Councillor Mooney's talked about a crossing that's needed. I think as she states, to note for information only is too passive. And I think, again, the very common theme with all of these petitions we've heard today, they're all about safety. They're not about congestion. They're about protecting people from being hurt and injured. So I would support a set of proposals that the committee agree with in order to mitigate this situation. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you, Denise. John Bortflower, you've asked to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Richard. I fully support this, knowing the road very well, like many of us do. It does need safety improvements. It's quite a wide road when either crossing, and I've many years ago was cycling down there, and I come off my cycle going across part of the road, which is extremely dangerous because of the vehicles pushing ahead. So I support this totally, and it's something that needs to be done sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And my last note, I've got another speaker, which is Chris Bateson.
Thank you, Chairman. I know this, I live very close to this locality. It is an extremely dangerous part of the Leyland Road. As members will recall, double yellow lines were put in at the junction of Commercial Road because of the number of accidents of vehicles coming out of Commercial Road turning right, caused, dare I say, also by the speed of traffic coming from Staines. Most certainly, the theme today is safety. I would agree with members on that. And this is another area that we do need to look at. It's absolutely ideal, in my view, for a 20-mile-an-hour limit, but we know that is a little bit further down the line to achieve. But I would certainly support that. Noting for information only is frankly not satisfactory and a little bit discourteous to the people who've gone about bringing this petition to our attention. Thank you.
Fine, thank you, Chris. I've got now Naz Islam. Naz?
Thank you, Chairman. I fully endorse everything Councillor Mooney, Councillor Dennis Turner-Stewart and John Bortflower have said. I fully support the Councillor Mooney's demands as this is noting for information is not actually satisfactory, especially when it comes to people's public safety. So therefore, we really need to do something in order to, mitigate the people's safety first. So I would definitely support the petitioner and the Councillor Mooney. Thank you.
Fine, thank you, Naz. And now finally, I've got Councillor Maureen Attewell. Maureen.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like, obviously, I do agree with everything colleagues have said, and I would hope that we agree for some action to be taken in this case. What I would like to add is that a substantial amount of this traffic that passes through the very road we're talking about actually then ends up passing into the Leyland area, who also are hoping to achieve a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And something which many of us may not be aware of at the moment, by the time that Shepperton Studios put up their new entrance in Leyland Road in Shepperton, and they have a new postcode for that entrance, that of course will attract additional traffic, possibly through this route and through Leyland on its way to the studios. So it's another factor to consider, that there may well be more traffic coming their way. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. I haven't got any further speakers from the councillors. So, Nick, I'd like you just to pick up anything and any suggestions. What I'd also like to know from you, Nick, is that if we go ahead with a feasibility study, then who covers the cost of that, so that we know where we stand. So over to you, Nick, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Chairman. Just to cover the feasibility point first. The reason I recommended that this is for information only was not intended as a to belittle the concerns in any way. That was never my intention. So I do apologise to the petitioner and to committee members if that's how it has come across. The reason I recommended that was simply because there is an amount of work ongoing. It has crossed the radar of our Road Safety Working Group, and they're actively looking at this as a potential site that they might promote. The VAS, the Vehicle Activated Signs, are in train, and there is a possibility, although I included the caveats in my response, there is a possibility that the pedestrian crossing could be provided in the context of the active travel programme. So there are a variety of things ongoing, and with the feasibility study, what I would suggest is that before a feasibility study is commissioned, allow those things to run their course, because we may well find that within the next little while, there are solutions brought forwards in the context of those existing activities, and anything that committee does by way of its own developed project would need to coordinate with those anyway. So that would be my response to the feasibility study. What I'm going to suggest is that if members would like to amend the recommendation so that it's less passive, it's more proactive, amend the recommendation to something along the lines of include a scheme for a new pedestrian crossing on the prioritisation list for future schemes, so that we can consider it later on for funding for a feasibility study if the other activities don't satisfy, or if they come to nothing. In any case, the soonest that a new feasibility study could start would be April 2021 anyway, by which time we would know the outcome of the other activities, and then we could make an informed decision. A couple of technical details. The petitioner questioned the parking comments. Fully accept that. Thank you very much for your observations there. You questioned the casualty data. We rely 100% on Surrey Police's records of casualties, and when they attend an incident involving a casualty, they record possible contributory factors. And the only thing that we can say is that the police have not recorded speed as a contributory factor in the casualties that they attended. We have no record of damage-only incidents, and so it is impossible for us to compare damage-only incident frequencies from one site with another. The reason we have data regarding casualties is because there's a legal requirement to report those to the police, and the police then get involved and they keep a record of those. The speed limit signs, a couple of people have mentioned the speed limit signs. The reason there are no speed limit signs in either Staines Road Leyland or Leyland Road Staines is because they're all part of a continuous, both roads are part of a continuous 30-mile-an-hour area, which starts the far side of Staines in one direction and the far side of Leyland in the other direction. And so within a 30-mile-an-hour area, I'm not defending this, merely stating that this is the situation. The law says that within a system of street lighting, we should not install 30-mile-an-hour repeaters. And so the driver, and I accept somebody made a comment about ignorance earlier, I would agree, there is a level of ignorance and potentially willful ignorance among drivers, that they should know that a system of street lighting by default indicates a 30-mile-an-hour road. So it's unfortunate that many drivers choose to disregard the speed limit. And I think I've covered everything, Chairman.
Fine. Thank you very much, Nick. And I understand that the vehicle activation signs are going in by the beginning of April next year. On that one, so that's certainly to go with the other things, a step in the right direction on that front. I've got no further speakers. Naz, could you put your hand down? I'm assuming that you've spoken from before. Thank you. But I've got, yes, the divisional member, Sinead Mooney. Yes, you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank the Highways Officer for his feedback on comments made, and also to colleagues who have been overwhelmingly in support of this particular petition, which is great. I'd just like to take the opportunity to ask Nick Healy why a feasibility study cannot be done till April 2021. Thank you. It's a long wait. It's a long time.
It is a long wait. The reason for that, Sinead, is the only money available for these studies is the money that the Joint Committee has. And the Joint Committee already has a full programme. All its monies are committed to other schemes. So in theory, the Joint Committee could start a feasibility study more sooner than that. But as I mentioned earlier, it would have to defer a scheme that it is already developing to make room for it, rather like we deferred schemes so that we could make room for the Staines Rising Bollard scheme at the previous meeting that we had. So it is possible, if committee consider this to be a higher priority than the schemes already in its programme, but that would be the only way that we could bring this forward.
Thank you. Frozen, Chairman.
Richard?
I think the chairman's frozen.
Yes, I think that's the case. If
shall I carry on?
You can indeed. Can I just suggest, as we're coming to this item, members will be able to see, as will Nick, the alternative suggestion that that Nick put together in his when he was talking, the alternative wording. So can I take a moment to ask people to consider that whilst we wait for the chairman to come back in? And if not, Councillor Bourke-Flower, perhaps you can continue.
Thank you, Caris.
Right, Councillor Bourke-Flower, if you want to see if committee members are in agreement with that.
Committee members, are you in agreement with Nick's change to that?
It might be helpful if I just
could you just
read it out again, which is, and Nick, then if I haven't captured it correctly, perhaps you can let me know otherwise. But if the Joint Committee is asked to include a scheme for a pedestrian crossing on the list for prioritisation for future schemes, if other activities do not result in a solution.
Are we all agreed?
Chairman,
Yes,
can
Councillor
I suggest the other activities should be removed?
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to just read that again, Caris?
I will do. And Nick, if you're on the call, perhaps you'd like to come in more on that. Include a scheme for a pedestrian crossing on the list for prioritisation on future schemes if other activities do not result in a solution.
Can we finish with the future scheme?
It wouldn't make it. It wouldn't. Sorry to interrupt. It wouldn't make any difference to what actually happened if we took NASA's modification, because by the time that we would ordinarily start a new feasibility study, we will know the outcome of the other activities anyway. And so we could stop after future schemes and it would have exactly the same effect. And then what would happen is that, rather like the highways update later on in this agenda, I would present to committee the prioritisation list again roughly this time next year, and that scheme would be available for committee to choose to allocate money for a new feasibility study.
Councillor Fiddler.
I apologise. I put my hand up in error. My apologies.
No problem. No problem. Better to ask and not. Okay. Is everybody agreed with the change of wording here?
Agreed.
Chairman, what are we agreeing? Is that the one I recommended or the next one?
Let's just get it read out again so everybody's totally sure.
Yeah,
Okay?
happy to do that.
Sorry about
Shall I read out then the wording as suggested by Councillor Islam, and then that will give us something on which to go. Include a scheme for pedestrian crossing on the list for prioritisation on future schemes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, it's everybody
agreed.
Okay. Agreed.
Yeah, happy with that.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, thank you. Anybody not agree? I think we have it there, Karis.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Welcome back, Richard.
Thank you so much for taking over. I don't know what happened. The machine just went off and stopped. And so I've now put it in and plugged it in and everything else. So I do apologise.
These things happen. Back to you, Chairman.
Okay, you're very kind. Thank you, John.
No problem. Thank you.
Right, okay then. So that's the end of the petitions. So just leaves me to thank Mr. Thomas Byrne for coming along, and I hope that was okay. And you'll no doubt be liaising with your divisional member about further items on this one. So I'll then move on to item 6, and that's the members. This is to do with the county councillors, the members' allocations. Just to remind everybody that everything has to be spent by the end of January. So I'll leave that with yourselves to do that. I'll move on to item 7, which is a written members' questions.
So excuse me, Chairman, just to say Councillor McElroy has joined the meeting.
Oh, excellent. I hope you're not feeling too bad, Jim, and that it's wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you, Richard. No, I'm feeling better now. Thank you very much. I had a hard time getting on. It took me a considerable amount of time, but glad to be here. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. I think all of us can't wait to be able to have a meeting in the same room face to face. I certainly can't, but anyway, so we had the written members' questions. There's 3 questions have been submitted by Councillor Sue Doran about the fire service, and responses have been given and published. So hopefully you have all seen those and read them in some detail. Now, in fact, in view of the full agenda for this afternoon's meeting, I would ask Councillor Doran to put any further follow-up questions in writing to be addressed outside of the meeting. What has further prompted me to say that is that I've received a text on my mobile, Karis, telling me that was I going to finish by 5:30? And I'm just wondering if we are in any way time locked to finish the meeting by 5:30, or will we be able to continue afterwards?
The target ending is 5:30. We can go for a little longer than that, but we have to be mindful of the fact that we have to do our meetings within County Hall opening hours currently. So we could probably take it up to, I'm going to get clarity on this, but possibly take it up to about 6 o'clock at the latest. So, but 5:30 would be ideal.
Oh, well, this is the first that I've realised this. Otherwise, I would have maybe suggested either an earlier time or some way around that, because I thought we could go on till we finished. Right, okay then, well, we'll pick that matter up for another time. So that really finishes item 7. We'll move on to item 8, which is the written public questions. Again, with 3 questions have been submitted by Andrew McCluskey, and responses have been given and published, and hopefully you've seen all of those. As with the previous item, I would like to invite Mr. McCluskey to put any follow-up questions in writing. I believe you have already indicated that you would like to work with officers to develop your idea for your fund, Surrey, as suggested in your written response. We look forward to seeing how this progresses. So thank you, Andrew. But we now, because of our time frame, I'll have to speed things along a bit. item 9 is on street parking review for decision. Now, Jack will give us a very short summary, please, Jack, of your report. As mentioned in the introduction, we will consider each division in the order that they appear in the report. Any questions, comments or objections should be made known when we are discussing the associated division. So after Jack has spoken, the first division that will come up will be Stanwell and Stanwell Moor, which are Robert Evans. Jack, over to you for a very quick summary, please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, this is the 2020 Spelthorne parking review based on 160 requests since we did the last parking review in Spelthorne. As always, we're trying to prioritise the most important to take forward to committee for recommendations on how to proceed. All details included in the report, so I won't repeat all that. The most significant proposals are the extensive double lines for Horton Road and Spout Lane and Stanwell Moor, the resident permit scheme in Staines, which is Victoria Road and Moor Lane, and the larger permit scheme in Ashford in streets near the railway station, which we're asking committee to make a decision on. So they're the most, the biggest schemes, and everything else is as you normally see, double lines on junctions and the most hazardous parts of the road, and it's pretty standard stuff. Anything agreed today will be advertised in early 2021, open to support, comment or objection responses as usual. So approval here isn't final, it's just merely allowing the restrictions to be advertised and open to opinion. That's it, Chairman. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much indeed, Jack, for that. So I'll kick off then with Stanwell and Stanwell Moor. Robert Evans, are you happy with what is happening in your area under the parking review? And also anybody else who wishes to comment about the area obviously can do. So Robert, can you fire off first, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll just go through the pages. The first one relates to aspects of Long Lane, where there's a bit of additional no waiting around the shop on the corner with Cranford Avenue, which residents have asked for. There's a wide bit of wide pavement there where people will also park on it. The second one refers to around the entrance to Town Farm School.
Sorry, Robert. Sorry, I do apologise. I don't need you to go through it all. It was purely if you didn't agree with any of it, on the assumption that you do agree with everything, then there's no need to say anything, unless you have a particular point that you want to bring to people's notice or to change something, really. So sorry, that was what I was really inferring.
Okay, I was making the bold assumption that people weren't necessarily familiar with all of them, but I will take your guidance on that, Chair. No, I support these. I support these motions. The only reservation I have is that there are an increasing number of cars in Stanwell, and A2 are not playing ball over assisting us with additional parking spaces, but that is perhaps a related but separate issue. The situation in Stanwell Moor, as Councillor McElroy will be aware, is different at the moment because of the airport traffic and the UCH problem will be one that will continue when the airport and the parking of taxis and minicabs when the airport gets back to normal. So I welcome these proposals and I thank Jack Roberts for his time and efforts on them.
Thank you very much, Robert. What I'm assuming, Robert, is that everybody's read every single one of these, because that is what's beholden upon us, that we read the agenda from one end to the other. And so I'm rather hopeful and assuming that that's happened. And so therefore people are aware of what you asked for. Pardon?
I said a bold assumption, Chair, but I'll go along with it.
Thank you very much. Right. And of course, unfortunately, we seem to be hostage a little bit to time as well. So that's another problem which hopefully we won't encounter at the next meeting. So thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate that. So what that means is therefore that I will come to the end. Right. Yeah. Okay then. Sorry. Right. Staines South and Ashford West. I've got Denise Turner-Stewart. Denise, do you object at all, or are you in agreement with the 2 items within your division?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy. I'm disappointed to see that some of the other suggested locations haven't been considered this time, but the report states that they will be considered with the next round. So just to have the confidence, and there have obviously been other locations which have been suggested, and Jack Roberts has been very helpful in explaining why they can't be progressed, even though there is a current problem down near Ashford Park School, so that's Windsor Drive and Queen's Walk, but I'll be working with officers to find solutions to that going forward, so thank you.
Fine, thank you very much indeed, Denise. Right, we then move on to Ashford. Naz, can you tell me if you are in agreement with what is happening in your division, including the car parking permit as written down, or are there any changes that you wish to make? Naz, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy with the recommendation Jack has made, but I'd like to say a few things about the parking survey and the parking permits.
Right.
As Jack has already mentioned on his report, the survey was conducted due to residents' complaints to myself and borough colleagues, and the survey was driven by the residents. The area recommended for permits are the highest affected area, heavily used by commuters due to rail station and Church Road businesses being close walking distance. Chairman, often residents find vehicles dumped for days, sometimes for weeks, by Heathrow passengers. Before the parking survey was conducted, I had a meeting with Surrey parking management team, namely Jack, David, and Ricky, to principally agree the survey report and residents' demand will be honoured and implemented. I was given assurance by the officers this will be the case. Chairman, here is some latest comments from residents. I will read for you on the parking WhatsApp group. Coronavirus advantage. We can park in our own roads. Next one from another residence. Every time there is a disruption of some kind, just evidence how much we are affected by commuters. Another residence saying, morning all, Naz and Nick, any updates on council meeting, please? We will. When will our parking meeting go ahead? I don't want all our hard working going nowhere. The roads are heavily been affected. Roads have been fantastic since COVID. We don't want them clogged with commuters again anytime soon. Another resident saying, I agree 100% with the one above. Everyone worked so hard on this survey, and COVID has proved what we have said all along, that we have a serious problem with commuters, because during all this, I have been able to get space every time near my house, often outside.
Right.
Sorry, Chairman, I haven't finished. And the same lady is saying, whereas previously I was often 2-3 streets away. So finally, what I would like to say, I would like to ask my committee members, obviously fellow colleagues, to support and the recommendation I have made for that permit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Naz. When everybody's gone through theirs, we will then go back and just go down the list and confirm agreement on them. So thank you for that. So we have Sunbury Common and Ashford Common. Alison Griffiths. Alison, are you in agreement with what's been put on the paperwork?
Yes, I'm in agreement. I'm incredibly happy to see that Heathcroft has been added at a later date, and I definitely support that. It's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much indeed, Alison. Right, Lower Sunbury and Halliford. Tim Evans. Tim, are you okay with what's on the paper?
Yeah, I have one question, and I've been discussing it with Borough Councillor Fiddler. He raised it with me. The Stratton Road, the line there. Everything's fine, apart from the fact that on the north side of Stratton Road, just up from the school, there's a suggestion of putting double yellow line there. And I do wonder, Jack, whether that's actually strictly necessary. I think you will know that I've always said that I want to have as few lines as possible. Sometimes they have to be put in, but I prefer not to have any more than we have to. Is there a particular reason why that bit has to go in?
Jack, can you respond, please?
Sorry, are you referring to the lines on the junction?
Not on the junction, no. The lines on the junction are fine, but as you come round the corner, you come along Sunbury Road, turn right up Stratton Road, because you have to, then you get obviously the bits next to the school are fine as well, but then on the left-hand side going up Stratton Road, which is the west side, not the north side, it's there is a double yellow line there.
Yeah, so yeah, it's the north side that threw me. Yeah, this
threw me too, because the north side isn't a side.
Yeah, these restrictions were a result of a road safety outside schools meeting, and all the restrictions that are drawn up reflected what we agreed at that meeting. The section on the western side is where you have a long line of cars on the footway there. They were causing quite a big problem with traffic flow, preventing two-way traffic flow there. So that was really one of the key things we were trying to resolve. So in terms of being necessary, that's sort of ranked number one out of all those proposals. So we would like to see that included, and it does reflect what was agreed at the site meeting at the time.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, fine. If I'm being advised that it is necessary for road safety, then obviously I'm not going to say no. But so thank you for that. The rest of it, Chairman's fine. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. The next one is Leyland and Shepperton, my division, and I'm okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I think Councillor Fiddler wanted to come in at that point.
Oh, sorry. I don't see a hand up. Maybe my machine doesn't work anymore.
Has it gone back down?
Tom Fiddler, do you want to speak?
I was going to, Chairman, but perhaps I'll speak when we're doing the next step rather than at this stage. Because if you were taking decisions on each one individually, I wasn't sure if you wanted to do it then. But my concern, yeah.
Bring it up now, because actually we're going to take the recommendations as on page 17. So we're not doing them individually, where I thought originally we were. So tell me, if you're not happy about something, you need to raise it now.
If I can, then my point relating to that stretch there on the west side of Stratton Road is one that I recognise the concerns, but my understanding was, and I have brought this up with Mr. Roberts as well, is that we are referring to the idea of pinch points. Unfortunately, we're determined by the road that all of the roads around here are residential road and pinch points. And I'm still just not convinced that we are going to solve any particular problems by this. And in fact, all I think that will happen then is that if we restrict the parking along there as well, we're going to further going to encourage bad parking on the junctions, which are already problematic. And I know that we've discussed displacement, but my feeling is that the displacement that would take place by putting that there is only going to make the road safety at the junctions even worse. I just thought I'd raise that now again. Thank you.
Thank you. So you don't want it to happen, Tom. Tim, you didn't want it to happen, except that you felt that Jack had convinced you.
I think it's difficult, isn't it? I've got every sympathy with what Tom's saying, that if you do this, you then displace parking further up. I think it will probably further up the road rather than on the corners. I think the corners have been covered off in the sense that nobody should ever be parking on the corners anyway. And oh dear. Sorry, yeah, I was on, yeah. We'll put yellow lines on them to block them off. I'm ambivalent on it. Tom's quite strong that he doesn't want it to happen on that particular bit. Jack's quite strong that he does, and he thinks it's come out of a road safety audit. And I feel that I should be guided by the road safety people, much as I don't like putting yellow lines down if I don't have to. I take the points both ways around. Yes, indeed, there are lots of pinch points all over Sunbury because of the amount of traffic. But I don't know where to go on it, because I don't particularly want to do something that people don't want. Equally, I don't want to go in the face of the road safety. So if the road safety, the road safety in the end, I think will have to carry weight. So I think we should go ahead with what the officers are suggesting and then see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that in the sense that it goes out to public advertisement, and then let's see what the feedback is. And if we ask Tom to feedback any feedback that he gets on the public thing, and further consult with you and Tom about whether or not it should go ahead. And so very much on that basis. Is that okay, Jack?
Yeah, that's fine, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, all right then, Tom, Tim, that hopefully resolves that one. I've gone straight through. I've had hardly anything. So the final one is Staines, and that's Sinead Mooney. Sinead, are you okay with what you've got, or would you like to make comment?
No, I'm very happy, Chairman. I'd just like to thank Jack for his work in the Staines division, indeed across the borough. There's a lot here within the Staines section, which is really great to see. Really supportive of the Victoria Road and Moor Lane permit scheme. So again, Jack, thank you very much for your work on that. Thank you, Chair.
Fine, thank you, Sinead. That's great. Okay then. There is just one little query on the report, Jack, that I just want to clarify. On page 28, the financial implications, we have some money left over from the parking fund, which normally then goes into helping us improve our roads, among other things. But it's been suggested in 5.1 that we put the £5,500 to pay for this, to put the yellow lines down and the other things. And then the parking team's own budget pays the balance. I thought the parking team paid the whole thing irrespective, and that we've been using, and I'll obviously take this up with Nick on the next item, but we've been using the parking surplus to help our highways money. So why have you asked for it to pay for parking, yellow lines and other things, which normally it comes out of your budget?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Well, normally it doesn't come out of the parking team budget. Normally the committee do allocate usually all the sum when you look back at previous years, but it has been common for the last at least 2 years that we have used the surplus as a contribution to the parking review. So, and it was done last year as well, for example, for the 2019 review. So it is actually something that's commonly done.
Oh, okay. I just didn't want to lose any money. Tim Evans, did you want to say something? Hello,
Yes,
Tim?
yes, please. Yeah. So I'm doing all the demuting and stuff. Yeah, not on that point, but on the rest of this report. Somebody else has already mentioned it. I look at the report, and there are 14 locations in Lower Sunbury and Halliford that have not been included in this. And there are loads in other people's divisions as well. I would like to know what the suggestions were in every one of those, rather than I can have a long meeting with you, Jack, but much better if could you just send me a list of what people were saying, and then we can talk about it if I feel as though there's something that needs to be talked about. Because these aren't things that I put forward, they're things that have come from residents.
Yeah. Jack, can you do that?
Yes. I mean, as I said at the beginning of the report, it says there's 160 requests, so there's not that many proposals. So there's obviously a lot that we have to turn down. But yes, I'll be able to email you the list of what residents said.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, fine. Thanks very much indeed. I haven't got anybody else who wishes to speak, and we have agreement on all the items. So what we have to do now is go to page 17.
Mr. Chairman, did you get agreement from Sinead?
Yes, I'm sure we did. Sinead, you agreed with what was there and you were pleased about it, if memory serves me right?
Most definitely, yeah. Thank you.
Fine, thank you, Sinead. Okay, we're going to page 17. We got recommendations, and we're asked to agree item 1, 2, and 3. Caris, do I need to read this out, or can the can members see it for themselves?
No, it's in the reports and it's on the slide. So if that you're happy just to refer to them by number, that's absolutely fine. Right. So therefore, I'll start off, and I think I'll assume that you all agree, unless if you don't agree, please would you say something or raise a hand. So therefore, item number 1. Right. Item number 2. And item number 3. Right. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. That's all been agreed. So Jack, you've got your orders, for want of a better word. And you'll be progressing on to advertise these items. Now then, I think that's all on this one. Are you okay with that, Jack?
Yes, perfectly happy, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Okay, can I just check with Jack? That was all the recommendations you wanted, wasn't it? Those 3. There's nothing else.
Yes, that was it. Yes. Yeah.
There's nothing else. Lovely. Thank you.
Right. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. We now move on to item 10, which is the highways update, and there are some decisions to do here. Nick Healy will speak, and there's 5 recommendations to agree, and these will be shown on the screen. And we'll also, at the same time, Nick, include item 10A, the A308 School Road Junction, which was a late report that came through. And there's a couple of items I'll need to read out on that, but we'll try and combine the 2 together and do the 4 recommendations to be agreed. So if you'd like to kick off, Nick. Now, at the moment, we potentially have between about 20 minutes and half an hour before we kind of get cut off in our prime. So can you keep it very short and sweet, please, Nick? Thank you.
Absolutely, Chairman. Mindful of the time, the report in theory should be self-explanatory, as is the A308 Junction with School Road report. So I would be delighted to take any questions.
Right. Everybody hopefully would have read the report. Just a couple of things that I'll pick up on first before people have had a chance to put their hands up. I think your recommendations, number 3, in your report, you indicated that you are planning to commission 3 new feasibility studies, but in the recommendations on page 69, you've indicated 2. So you just need, I think, to change that to 3.
I included that, Richard, just to make sure that you were reading my report.
Absolutely. I didn't for one moment assume that you hadn't done it that way, but I'm glad that the other thing is that again we have in next year's budget £86,000 less than we do in this year's budget. Are we still waiting on the Cabinet Member for Highways to come back together with the leader of the council, hopefully indicating that we'll have the same amount of money as we did last year for next year? Is that correct?
I've heard the rumour, Chairman, but I have not yet seen an official confirmation.
Right. So we can only ask our fellow councillors to keep the pressure up on the Cabinet Member for Highways that he gives us back our £86,000, please, or to put it up by that. Okay, that's that one. And I think that's all I've got. I just wanted to pick up on the report. In the meantime, I've got Alison Griffiths who'd like to speak. Alison, over to you.
Thank you. I would like to make a comment on the 4th thing on here, but you've got the Spelthorne badge over it, so I can't read what's happening. Just let you know. I just wanted to say thank you. We received a late report yesterday for the proposed crossing at the A306, wherever that. And I know about 3 years ago I came to this joint committee with Emma Ronan, who actually produced the petition after her daughter was knocked down on the way to school. Since then, reading through your report, I see that up to 2019 we had 15 collisions, 7 of them were pretty bad. So I'm just so grateful that we're actually moving this along. I think it's absolutely amazing that you've managed to get from Highways England £835,000 to move on with this. And I just want to thank you, Nick, because it's close to a lot of my residents' hearts. And I know I've had correspondence with Emma today and she's over the moon. So I just wanted to thank the Joint Committee and Nick for the time and effort you've put into this, because I know it's been a long process.
Thank you, Alison. I seem to remember that one of the petitioners was blind, I believe, going back 4 or 5 years. And it was so sorry to hear, the problems that she has or had. So that hopefully
she's still about, so this will make a big difference to her life as well, because she'll actually be able to cross the road instead of having to walk for miles. So yeah, no, thank you.
Good. Okay then. Right. Does anybody else wish to speak? I see no hands, and so therefore we therefore need to. I think if we do the 5 recommendations which are on the screen at the moment, Caris, if I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like we did the parking, would that cover all the legal requirements that we have?
That would indeed. I do just want to confirm, so I can record it in the minutes, that for recommendation number 3, we are looking at 3 new feasibility studies and not the 2 that's there. Can I confirm that with you, Nick, so that committee members know that that is what they're agreeing to?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, committee members, again, Denise Turner-Stewart, I see your hand up. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. No, the agenda's just freezing. I just wanted to speak on the Leyland Village 20-mile-an-hour limit, and I'm not sure if it's in this section of the agenda because I've actually struggling to move it up to the next item. So is that within this report or is it in the following report, please?
It's in this one, Denise.
Yeah,
it is in this one.
3 feasibility studies.
Yeah, sorry, it's just that it's not allowing me to access the page. So am I able to speak before you take the recommendations, please?
Oh, yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I've had discussion today with the chairman of the Ashford Road Residents Association and Chairman and Nick, you have had long experience of all of the efforts of the residents of Ashford Road to reduce the speed with community speed.
I think you've frozen, Denise.
Right. History. I know, Chairman, you were very sorry.
Sorry, Denise, we lost you for some time. Can you restart? Sorry.
Yes. Sorry. Okay. So I've had. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I've had discussion today with the chairman of the Ashford Road Residents Association, who want to see this feasibility extended into Ashford Road. And I was talking about the time that you spent, Chairman and Nick, around the issues in Ashford Road leading into Leyland Village and exiting Leyland Village into Ashford Road, Leyland. There's been a long history of issues there. We've got vehicle activated signs. We've had the Police and Crime Commissioner down. We've got Drive Smart activity to monitor the speed issues. They go up to about 90 miles an hour sometimes in Ashford Road. I know, Chairman, that you were very successful in getting the speed limit in Shepperton Road leaving Leyland Village or approaching Leyland Village down to 40 because of those issues. So whilst I completely support the attention that's being paid to Leyland Village, and again, I've also got issues in Staines Road, which I've spoken to you about, but the roads that lead into Leyland Village are subject to quite serious speed issues as well. So I would be grateful if it could be expanded to consider that area, given the history, because it appears as if even though a series of measures have been implemented in Ashford Road, they are still present. And actually, whilst we're looking at Leyland Village, it will be really helpful to extend that into Ashford Road, Leyland as well, given the options that have been presented within this report. Thank you.
So what you're talking about in Ashford Road is to reduce the speed limit from 40 to 30.
Yeah, that's what's been requested for some time, and given that one of the options in this report details a partial 30-mile-an-hour limit, it would be very helpful at this time if the feasibility study could consider Ashford Road, Leyland as well.
Okay, Nick, would you like to comment on that?
For sure, we can extend the feasibility study, and we would start the whole thing by doing speed surveys. So it's just a question of extending the study to include further speed surveys in Ashford Road. And once we've gathered that evidence, we'd be able to report on the possibilities for Ashford Road.
I'll be very grateful, and that's not in any way to devalue the work that's gone into that particular location already. There have been a number of years of activity there. It just appears to be a bit disjointed to omit it from this particular exercise, so I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Nick, can I just also confirm, we've got 3 effective feasibility studies here. Who's covering the cost of these 3 feasibility studies?
The Joint Committee from its budget for next financial year.
I'm not sure if we've lost Richard, but could I just ask Nick that you could in some way confirm that feasibility study will cover Ashford Road as well in some kind of sort of follow-up to this meeting, just so that we've got a record of that pledge?
Harris, will it be included in the minutes?
That's about the feasibility study, isn't it?
Just to extend that feasibility study into Ashford Road at Denise's request.
If you can just sort of give me again just a sentence to put on the end of the 3rd recommendation, that would clear us. So to be funded from the committee's capital allocation to include the.
Yeah. I'm just going to put some words in the chat.
Okay.
Caris, could I just say something, because my hand's been missed?
Okay, I'll when we get the chairman back, we'll come back to you. Right, have we got
Caris, while we've lost the chairman because he's gone frozen again, this is Tim Evans. I just want to make a similar remarks about the Thames Street extension up the avenue. Thank you very much, Nick, for that. Can you give me some indication of how far up the avenue it might go? Because
one moment, Tim. Nick, have you finished that previous point?
Yes. Yeah. Let me.
Okay, carry on.
No, I want to speak on that point. Sorry, before we move on.
Okay, Mr. Councillor Bortflower, if you can step in for Richard.
I will. Yes. Can we have the hands up? I think Maureen was just ahead of you there, Tim. So Maureen, then Tim. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to support really Denise as what she said about Ashford Road, because the residents down there have actually carried out their own speed watch down there at times. So they have tried themselves to contribute to reducing the speed, and it makes absolute sense for that to continue from Leyland up to through the Ashford Road.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Evans, Tim Evans.
Thank you. It was only a remark, really. I'm very happy with the recommendations. I'm delighted, Nick, that we continue to do this work of extending 20-mile-an-hour limits in Lower Sunbury because they're needed. I just wanted to know quite how far up the avenue you might think that the feasibility study will go, because the avenue is a very long road.
Nick. Thank you, Chairman. I would cover the whole length of the avenue, Tim. The avenue, as you know, is one of the 4-ish main routes through Lower Sunbury, all of which suffer from patterns of casualties. And so gradually, I'm hoping to encourage the Joint Committee to implement over a number of phases, over a number of years, an area-wide 20-mile-an-hour zone with appropriate supporting engineering measures across the whole of Lower Sunbury.
Thank you, Nick. I'm delighted with that, and of course we could do it faster if we had more money.
Indeed.
Thank you. Okay. Caris, where does that put us with? Is there anything to agree there, or
yes, what we need to agree now is if you could just go through the recommendations. You can do that by, if you could just do the first two for me, and then I'll read out the alternative for number 3.
Thank you, Caris. Okay, all like Richard done before. Is there anybody not in agreement with number 1? Okay, I take silence as approval. Now, number 2. Is there anybody not in agreement with number 2?
Yes. Chair, I just wonder if I could just raise a point on the Gresham Road.
Yes, please, Councillor Mooney.
Thank you. So I just wondered what sort of delay potentially could we be looking at, because there's no announcement on the active travel programme. This scheme has been awaiting a feasibility study for some time. Just some clarity, I think, on the potential delays waiting for the government's announcement may have on this.
Chairman, do you want me to?
Yes, please.
The Gresham Road feasibility study is published in Annex A, and that has been completed a little while actually, but because a number of committees were cancelled, this is the first opportunity that we've had to publish it. We will know very shortly whether Gresham Road is going to be delivered as part of the Active Travel Tranche 2. For those of you who don't know, Surrey County Council was successful in securing 6.4 million under the government's Active Travel Scheme Tranche 2 to deliver 10 schemes across the county. Now, 4 of those are in Spelthorne. So Spelthorne has potentially done very well. And I say potentially because the total value of the package of 10 schemes was 7.8 million. So although we were the 3rd highest award of any highway authority in the country, we're still 1.4 million short of the total value of the package. So what we intend to do is to develop all of the 10 schemes through to public consultation. So in the case of Gresham Road, we'll take the feasibility work that's already been done, and you can see in Annex A, and we will develop those into a consultation package because there are a number of options that could be deployed. We'll consult the local community on all 10 of those active travel schemes, including Gresham Road, and after consultation, depending on how they're received by the local committees, we will select 6.4 million pounds worth of schemes to install across the county. So that's how it will work. And at this stage, I guess the more positive the consultation responses are, the more likely it is that schemes would be delivered. And so with the Gresham Road scheme, you'll see that there are a number of options. If there is strong support for one of those options, then there is a reasonable likelihood that it will go ahead. Does that answer your question, Sinead?
Not entirely, because my question was, let's say the government does not announce the active travel programme, so that opportunity for that funding is no longer available. Does this mean, therefore, based on that wording in that second recommendation, that Gresham Road yet again has to come back to the March Joint Committee to be reconsidered? So,
sorry, Sinead, the government has already announced 6.4 million.
So Gresham Road is included in the second tranche?
It's included in the second tranche, subject to public consultation on all the schemes in that tranche.
Apologies, Nick, I didn't hear that bit. Apologies, Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay now? So I shall ask again.
Alison Griffiths has just put.
Okay, Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm with yourself, Councillor Mooney, that the funding has been given, it's granted, but unlike last time where we were given the money to go straight out and to provide these active travel ideas, this time we have to actually go through consultation and do a lot of gathering of evidence before we will be given the money, although it has already been allocated to us. So that's just the hold up, is that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for making that clear. Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Okay. Item 2 again. Is anybody not in favour of this proceeding? Okay, I'll take the silence as a yes. Okay. Karis, did you want to come in on item 3, please?
Yes, on item 3, it's as it appears on the screen, but we wanted to add to the end of that, this is Nick's a suggestion following the conversation. So at the end of number 3, to include the extension of Leyland Village 20 mile an hour feasibility study to consider a review of the speed limit in Ashford Road.
Okay. Is anybody against that? Please speak now. Okay, I take that as given.
That's Alison back in again. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Griffiths.
Old hand, sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, Chair. Are we changing this to 3, not 2?
Yes, 2 has already been agreed. That was for number 3.
This is number 3.
I know, but the too many numbers here. In number 3, shouldn't the word 2 be 3? Isn't that what?
Yes, you are correct. Let me say that again. You are completely correct, and thank you for that. We did mention it earlier, and then with me looking at 2 different screens, I don't think I made the connection myself. So my apologies and my thanks for you for that. Let me read that out for you once again then.
Thanks.
To approve the commissioning of 3 new feasibility studies to start in April 2021 as set out in Table 4 to be funded from the committee's 2021-22 capital allocation, paragraphs 2.2.3, 2.2.4 and Annex B refer to include the extension of Leyland Village 20 mile an hour feasibility study to consider a review of the speed limit in Ashford Road.
Okay, thank you, Karis. Is anybody against it? Okay, that's passed. Item 4. So it's a bit hard to read with that Spelthorne logo on, Karis. I don't know if we can move that.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's me again, John.
That's fine, Tim.
Yeah, sorry. The Escort has only got 1 T in it, by the way. It's basically with a T at the other end.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you've got it on paper. So, is anybody against this item 4? Okay, that's agreed. Item 5. Anybody against that? No, thank you. That's passed. Thank you, Karis.
Mr. Walsh has been in contact with me. He seems to have completely lost internet connection. Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind, Councillor Bortflower, moving forward on to the next item.
Yes, please. Let's move on to item 11, Forward Programme 2020-2021.
It's actually to item 10A, which is the
Sorry.
report. I don't know if you have a copy of the Chairman's notes in front of you, Councillor Bortflower. There's actually a legal bit that needs to be read out ahead of that. If you've got that in front of you and would like to do that.
Karis, I don't think I have. I've got up to item 11.
Okay.
Hold on. Sorry, it's a drop page. My apologies. Okay, this report has been admitted as a late report to the 30th of November meeting, and it is a key decision affecting more than 2 divisions, and it was deemed unreasonable for this item to be held over until the next committee date, as this would have had the potential to adversely affect the start of the construction for this project. The Chairman of the Select Committee, Communities, Environment and Highways, has approved the late inclusion of this report in adherence to the Special Urgency Rules Standing Orders 56.1 and 56.2, and this abides by the Council's Constitution Standing Order 44.2 and the Local Government Act 1972, Article 6 relating to the late agenda items. In accordance with this procedure, this report will be recorded as late in the minutes, along with the explanation for its inclusion that I have just given. I'm sure that many of you will recognise that this is a project that was strongly supported by the Joint Committee when it was first approved, and will be delighted to see it coming to fruition. Okay. So the recommendations are in front of you.
I think Alison, you wanted to come in.
I'm just noticing the hands up now, Caris. I'm getting used to it. Councillor Griffiths, please.
Thank you. This is what I should have come into last time. I was a bit early, so this is what I want to thank you for. As I said, Emma Ronin, come along with her daughter. I am absolutely over the moon to see this coming forward, and I hope you will consider, as I said earlier, 15 accidents, 7 of them really serious over the past 5 years. We've managed to find £835,000 from Highways England, so it will mean that we need £152,000 from the SIL money. I really do implore you to agree with this for the safety of the area, and also, as the report says, it opens up the community, because at the moment we're caught unable to cross the road. There is no traffic lights for a few hundred metres, so this would be absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other hands up before I pass over to Nick Healy? Okay, Nick.
Just to confirm very quickly that the funding package is assembled, and that we have Section 106 monies to make up the difference. So there is no requirement for SIL monies for this scheme.
Excellent. So this can proceed as soon as possible, I guess, Nick.
Yeah, we're hoping to start on site before the end of March, which is why we felt that it was unreasonable to delay the report to the next meeting, because that may have held up the start date for the scheme. So at the moment, we're working on a legal agreement with Highways England to facilitate the transfer of money. And once that's all in place, to be honest, we've already started making preparations for delivery because the noises from Highways England are quite positive.
That's excellent. Thank you, Nick. Anybody else for any questions? I think it's a great scheme. Let's go through the recommendations. If everybody happy with the recommendations to proceed. Okay, or should I ask if people are not happy, please make yourself noticeable. Give it a moment. Okay, let's proceed. Thank you very much. That's passed. Excellent stuff. Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Nick. Okay, moving on. Thank you for that notice of 10.A, Caris. Item 11, Forward Programme 2020-2021. Okay, it's to review the forward programme, indicating any further preferences for inclusion. I hope everybody's gone through the programme. Are there any questions at this point? I see we've got a question from, I can't see who it is. Sorry, Caris, could you?
I've got Tom Fiddler has got a question.
Yes, certainly. Councillor Fiddler.
Thank you, Chairman. I can probably guess you can imagine what my question is. I noted a note that was sent out in advance of this meeting in relation to SIL, and I think based on the discussions today, we've all really recognised the importance and value that SIL could offer our communities as long as we are clear, transparent and accountable in the process. Can I trust that the steps that are being suggested will come back for full cabinet as to full committee as suggested, and that will be in the forward plan, as I know it wasn't included in it, but then suggested afterwards.
Thank you, Councillor Fiddler. Yes, it will be, and that's why it's taken a little bit longer, and it will come back as soon as possible. Thank you.
And if I may, sorry, as I've said all the way through, if there is anything I can offer in terms of supporting on that programme, I'm more than willing to help with supporting that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Councillor Fiddler. Any other questions? We've got Robert Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask where it says in the forward planner task groups? Can I just ask where we're at with task group membership and information? Because unless it's passed me by, I haven't heard anything.
It was the intention to bring the task group report to this meeting. But in view of the fact, and I think send something out to committee members ahead of or about the time that the agenda was planned, in view of the fact that that we are essentially coming towards the end of this municipal year, and there's a lot of discussion therefore going on around task groups and what their role might be in the next municipal year, which hasn't yet been decided. It was felt that actually it'd be more sensible now to defer this report until at least the next meeting, or the first one of the next municipal year, when budgets and projects will be more clearly defined, and the role of the task group therefore will also be more clearly defined.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, got some more hands up. I can't see some of them, Caris. I don't know why there's. I've got Nick. There's somebody else.
Denise Turner-Stewart has got her hand up.
Okay, well, Denise Turner-Stewart, then Nick. Thank you. Denise, over to you. Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wondered if we could include a joint report actually from the Surrey Flood Alleviation Scheme and also from Spelthorne Council, because Spelthorne have been very proactive with some watercourses in Spelthorne, some of which have EA responsibility, some of which are privately owned, just to sort of draw out the need for people that have responsibilities that back onto watercourses in Spelthorne to take responsibility and prevent flooding, as a lot of Spelthorne is a 1 in 10 area, and obviously we had a major event in 2014, so we're looking at the likelihood of something significant in the next 2 or 3 years potentially. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner-Stewart. I think that's a superb suggestion. Caris, can we add that?
Yes, I've made a note of that, certainly.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Over to you, Nick.
Good news, committee. While we've been online, I have had confirmation that the legal agreement has now been signed with Highways England, which means we're all systems go with the school road scheme.
Fantastic. That is really, really good news.
Excellent news.
Okay. Any more questions on the forward programme? Okay. Next item, date of next meeting. It's provisionally booked for the 9th of March 2021, carrying on as a remote virtual meeting, unless things change. So hopefully dates to your diaries. Are we okay on that one?
We are, absolutely.
Thank you. And I think that has brought us to the end.
Yes, Councillor, if you'd like to formally close the meeting, and then I'll get confirmation that the webcast has finished.
Thank you, Caris. I wish to thank everybody for their attendance, and I now close this meeting. Good evening all.